Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Lamb, and here's a preview of some of today's top stories. The man who crashed into the Chinese consulate in San Francisco has been identified. The courts are allowing California to ban high-capacity gun magazines. This ruling follows a lawsuit that alleged Second Amendment violation. Lawmakers want to ban employers from discriminating against employees who used marijuana in the past. The governor now has to decide whether to sign that idea into law. San Francisco officials have identified the man who crashed a car into the Chinese consulate earlier this week. Here's what we know so far.
31-year-old San Francisco man Zhang Yuanyang has been identified as the driver who crashed a car into the Chinese consulate on Monday. Yang was shot and killed by San Francisco police after crashing a car into the visa office. San Francisco's Office of the Chief Medical Examiner told AP News in an email Thursday that they have no additional information to disclose. A witness told reporters he was yelling about the Chinese Communist Party as he exited the car, bleeding from his head. Police have not disclosed how the shooting unfolded or how many officers fired. There were no reports of any other injuries. The incident drew condemnation from the White House and Chinese government.
A divided federal appeals court is allowing California's ban on magazines that hold more than 10 rounds of ammunition to remain in effect. Meanwhile, the state appeals a judge's ruling, finding it unconstitutionally violated the rights of firearm owners.
In a 7-4 vote, the San Francisco-based 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals on Monday stopped a judge's previous ruling. The ruling in September found the state's ban violated gun owners' rights to keep and bear arms under the Second Amendment. The ruling came in a long-running lawsuit by the California Rifle and Pistol Association and gun owners challenging the ban. U.S. District Judge Roger Benitez in San Diego sided with them and cited a 2022 decision by the U.S. Supreme Court New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruin. It requires that firearms restrictions be, quote, consistent with the nation's historical tradition of firearm regulation to pass muster. California Attorney General Rob Bonta quickly moved to stay that decision, and on Monday, the Ninth Circuit's majority agreed with Bonta that the law likely remained valid even under the conservative majority Supreme Court's ruling. The court said that federal judges nationally had upheld large-capacity magazine restrictions since the Supreme Court ruled, and that a decision to the contrary would threaten public safety. The judges, appointed by Democratic presidents, wrote, if a stay is denied, California will indisputably face an influx of large-capacity magazines like those used in mass shootings in California and elsewhere. 4 judges appointed by Republican presidents dissented.
Could California ban employers from discriminating against an employee's personal cannabis use? 2 new bills are waiting for the governor to decide just that.
2 California bills want to prevent employers from discriminating against employees for using cannabis. If approved by the governor, one of these bills, Senate Bill 700, will make it unlawful for employers to ask employees or applicants about prior use starting January 1, 2024. Existing law already states that it is unlawful for most employers to discriminate against a person's former use. Bill author Senator Stephen Bradford said in a bill analysis, quote, last year, the legislature made it unlawful for an employer to discriminate against an employee in hiring, termination, or conditions of employment because of a person's off-the-job cannabis use. SB 700 explicitly makes it unlawful for employers to request information from an applicant relating to their prior use of cannabis. SB 700 has until October 14th to be signed or vetoed by Governor Gavin Newsom. The other bill, Assembly Bill 2188, authored by Assemblywoman Shannon Quirk-Silva, has already been approved by Governor Newsom. The bill will also take effect the beginning of 2024. AB 2188 prevents employers from discriminating against employees using cannabis off the job. The law states that employers can still test for cannabis. They can then decide repercussions if employees test positive, indicating current impairment. This follows California's historic trend of legalizing cannabis. It was the first state to allow medicinal cannabis use starting in 1996.
More and more, we hear of reports of illegal marijuana growing in small and large numbers in Northern California. A sheriff tells California Insider's Siamak Karami how they grew to be so popular and their impacts surrounding communities.
Mendocino County Sheriff Matt Kendall is the sixth generation to live on tribal lands in Mendocino County. But what normally would have been safe places to live, they are now being taken over by cartels. He tells California Insider Siamak Karami how rural California counties are being taken over by illegal marijuana growers.
And then that Compassionate Use Act of 1996 that codified 11362.5 that said you can have medical marijuana. That's where we saw things shifting. And all of a sudden, a lot of people showed up who did not have a 50-year plan to raise their families, be good people, take care of their neighbors. A lot of people showed up with a 2-year plan to make as much money as they possibly could, not care about the environment, not care about their neighbors, and it came with a lot of violence. It came with a lot of violence because of the money involved.
At one point, Kendall said there were 8,000 to 10,000 illegal grows in Mendocino County.
You can see the things that have gone on in Mexico with intimidation, with cartel wars and things like that. And that's what we're beginning to experience here in the United States, and especially in these rural areas where I've got 2 deputies working the north half of the county in a county that is 3,500 square miles. Wow. I have 6 deputies on per shift to cover and patrol 3,500 square miles.
Kendall has also seen a lot of human trafficking. Many were brought in to work at the illegal grows through cartels.
One of the things that we've learned is that when they're being smuggled, these guys chum up with them. They start talking to them. They find out who their family is, where they live, where are they from. That is later used against them. When they get to the United States, now you have a debt to work off. And so you will be working for me. And it may be in a marijuana grow. It may be sex trafficking. It may be you will sell drugs for me.
In addition, illegal grows pose a huge threat to the environment, including deforestation where they would bulldoze large portions of forests, and carbofurands, poisons that are smuggled up from foreign countries, mostly from Mexico.
If you poison a rat with it, then the rat is eaten by a coyote, and the coyote dies of it. And then the coyote carcass is eaten by a bear, and the bear dies of it. These are the types of things that are just ruining the country. I had a deputy who was exposed to it and spent a night in the hospital.
There is also a huge health hazard just being near the grows, as he and his department noticed strange cancers after deputies were exposed to them.
Our old marijuana sergeant, he died of a very strange cancer. The marijuana sergeant who worked marijuana after that, he had another cancer and wound up in the hospital for like 90 days or something. It was just, I mean, the health risks that are coming here are just beyond belief.
Recently in Placer County, detectives located nearly 400 marijuana plants at a residence in Forest Hill on September 26. They learned that the home was recently transformed into an illegal indoor marijuana grow. According to the Placer County Sheriff's Office, the grow posed an extreme fire hazard as detectives found 2 homemade panel boxes inside the home that were tied with electrical lines from the outside smart meter.
To watch the full program, find California Insider on Epic TV on the Epic Times website or Ganjing World. California's first person to be convicted of a fentanyl-related murder was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison on Tuesday. NTD's Jason Blair has more on this story.
In July, Nathan Kabakungan pleaded guilty to second-degree murder of 15-year-old Jules Marie Wolfe. The conviction was the first in California for a fentanyl-related murder. On Tuesday, Kabakungan was given a minimum of 15 years in prison, which afterward he'll be eligible for parole. According to law enforcement, their investigation found that Kabakungan was a, quote, prolific fentanyl dealer who was knowingly selling counterfeit opioid pills containing lethal levels of fentanyl. Kabakungan was using social media platforms to advertise his deadly fentanyl for sale and continued doing so following the victim's death. On the day of the sentencing in Placer County, local and state law enforcement discussed efforts on fighting the fentanyl crisis.
We can't stress enough how dangerous fentanyl is. It's cheap, it's potent, and it's lethal. A horrifically tragic combination.
Bonta also said the drug can be sold as a pill, a powder, or hidden in other drugs. The Placer County Sheriff reported that Capakungan sold Wolf a counterfeit opioid laced with fentanyl, resulting in her death. Then he fled to avoid arrest. The Placer County District Attorney said, quote, "Our message is simple. Do not sell this poison in Placer County. This historic sentence affirms our county's commitment to holding fentanyl dealers accountable." According to research data, fentanyl is now the leading cause of death in the U.S. among 18 to 45-year-olds. California Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed some overdose-related bills. One will require stadiums, amusement parks, and concert venues to keep the opioid overdose reversal drug Narcan on hand. Another will require fentanyl testing strips at California community colleges and CSU campuses. Reporting in California, Jason Blair, NTD News.
We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come right back. Governor Newsom has signed new health bills into law. He says the move will modernize the state's mental health and treatment systems. Disneyland ticket prices have spiked. The amusement park also unveiled revamped ticket prices for kids. Hundreds of colorful quilts on display. The Pacific International Quilt Festival brings together quilt connoisseurs, creators, and admirers. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Lamb. In Los Angeles County, the governor signed legislation that will modernize and transform California's mental health and substance use disorder treatment systems. The bills will appear as one for the 2024 election.
Governor Gavin Newsom on Thursday signed 2 bills into laws that would transform the state's mental health and treatment systems. The bills signed are AB 531, also known as the Behavioral Health Infrastructure Bond Act, and SB 326, the Behavioral Health Services Act. Together, they will appear as Proposition 1 for the March 2024 ballot.
Today marks a powerful and important milestone that we are moving beyond identifying issues, but to a paradigm shift to begin the process of being accountable to solve them.
Newsom spoke to state and local leaders at an event Thursday in a historic hospital in Los Angeles, where he signed the measures. The vacant General Hospital is being converted into roughly 1,000 affordable units. The governor needs voters' approval because he wants to borrow billions of dollars through a bond to pay for the proposals. They would allow the state to borrow $6.38 billion for over 11,000 new treatment beds, housing, and 26,700 outpatient treatment slots to serve up to 100,000 people a year. The measure also would overhaul how counties pay for mental and behavioral health programs. Newsom and supporters said the spending would help the state make a dent in its growing homelessness crisis. It would mark the first major update to the state's mental health system in 20 years. If voters approve of the plan in March, the proposals would give the state $2.4 billion in the next 5 years.
Legislative staffers can now unionize under a new California law. The law will allow for the employees of lawmakers to negotiate their terms and condition of unemployment through a collective bargaining process.
Assembly Bill 1, introduced by Democratic Assemblywoman Tina McKinnor, will allow for legislative staffers to form a union for the purpose of negotiating wages, benefits, and working conditions. The bill was supported by 8 other members, including a long list of bipartisan co-authors representing both chambers. In an October 7th press release, McKinnor called it, quote, a huge victory, adding that we are taking action to make sure that current and future legislative staff, regardless of their members' political affiliation, are afforded a safe, equitable, and fair opportunity to build a noble career in public service. Bargaining rights will now be provided through the newly created Legislature Employer-Employee Relations Act. The law is set to take effect July 1, 2026, and will impact nearly 2,000 legislative and district staff members.
Breaking their silence, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith reveal more about their relationship. NTD's Stephanie Sakal tells us the story of the shocking separation revelation.
Rumors about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's relationship have been circulating for years. Despite putting on a facade of a happy marriage in the public and discussing their issues on the show Red Table Talk, Jada has now revealed that they've been separated since 2016. On the Today Show, Jada confessed that she and Will are no longer romantically involved and that they yet had to figure out how to present their partnership to the public. Jada attributed their separation to a combination of factors and unrealistic expectations they held for each other. Jada's revelation coincided with the upcoming release of her memoir, Worthy, in which she shares her perspective on the incident involving Will Smith slapping Chris Rock at the Oscars. She also revealed that her history with Chris Rock goes back to their split in 2016, when he mistakenly thought she was available due to divorce rumors. This revelation prompted fans to share their reactions on social media, questioning why Will confronted Chris Rock at the 2022 Oscars if they were already separated. Stephanie Sakal, NTD News, Los Angeles.
A trip to visit Mickey Mouse got a bit more expensive this week, with Disneyland unveiling their new and revamped ticket prices. NTD's Christina Corona has more from Anaheim.
We're here at the happiest place on earth, where Disneyland tickets are yet again on the rise. However, they are launching a limited time kids special ticket offer available for use in the upcoming year. Disneyland hiked prices on various park tickets Wednesday, which includes the popular Magic Key annual passes. While the cheapest one-day ticket remains priced at $104 per day, the cost of the priciest one-day peak ticket surged from $179 to $194 for single park access. Multi-day tickets experienced an overall increase of around 11 to 12%. The Imagine Pass increased to $499. The Enchant Pass rose to $849. The Believe Pass climbed to $1,249. And the Inspire Pass is now $1,649. However, Disneyland Resort introduced a discounted child's ticket that will be available for visits in early 2024. Starting on October 24th, guests can buy children's tickets for as low as $50 per child per day, with options for 1, 2, or 3-day park tickets. This special ticket offer caters to children aged 3 to 9 and is valid from January 8th to March 10th, 2024, and aren't subject to blackout dates, but reservations are still required. The new prices come as Disneyland Resort adds new rides and attractions to its park. Disneyland is currently celebrating the Halloween season until October 31st. Christina Corona, NTD News, Anaheim.
Drivers finally seeing some relief at the pump. Although the gas prices in California keep falling, it is still the highest nationwide.
According to the American Automobile Association, the average price for a gallon of gas fell to $5.70 statewide on Thursday. That's 24 cents lower than 1 week ago. AAA says prices are falling nationwide due to a dip in demand and the falling cost of crude oil. But California drivers are still paying significantly more for gasoline than those in other states. While the national average was $3.65 per gallon, California is now the only state with prices above $5. Governor Gavin Newsom has accused oil companies of market manipulation, but experts say that California's regulatory environmental policies and a lack of refinery capacity are more significant factors.
Hundreds of quilted artwork, from traditional styles to innovative designs. This year's theme is Perseverance. Connoisseurs hope to spread art to the world while attendees look for inspiration. Here's the story. Every year, many quilt connoisseurs come to the Pacific International Quilt Festival to draw inspiration and to see the collections of the masterpieces. About 320 quilts got accepted into this year's International Quilt Competition held in Santa Clara, California. They must have been quilted within the last 3 years.
The creator of this is Akizaki, and she's from Tokyo, Japan. It's all hand done. And if you get a close-up of this and get to the show and look at it close, you're going to see how incredible it really is. It's applique, it's trapunto, it's all hand-stitched, it's her original design, and it's gotten a top honor this year.
David Mancuso says competition categories are for traditional, innovative, and mid-century modern styles. This year's theme was perseverance, and Mancuso said the quilt that won Best of Show embodied that, especially after the pandemic.
You have to have a lot of perseverance to do that kind of hand stitching.
There were an additional 450 to 500 pieces on special exhibition. One artist allows kids a chance to bring their quilting into life.
So we've done middle schools in Richmond, Oakland, Berkeley. We've done juvenile halls. We've done adult jails. We've done classes at UC Berkeley. As you look at these quilts, yes, 20 kids made these 20 blocks, but then 20 adults embroidered those kids' art, and then a team of volunteers in Vacaville, for the most part, helped piece all these quilts, and then another volunteer long-armed it.
Volunteers brought this quilt to life for an oil painter in Nigeria who didn't have means to complete the quilt himself. The event also holds workshops and lectures with instructors from all over, including Spain and Africa, as well as a marketplace for fabric and sewing machines, and wearable art with a fashion show.
We get more and more creative. We do more social media. We do wonderful things, and we're starting to see a younger crowd, and that's where the future is.
The Quilt Festival runs until Sunday. David Mancuso, the man behind this festival, says that even though the festival has grown over the years, he still hopes the younger generation could come to appreciate the arts more. In Santa Clara, California, David Lamb, NTD News. That's all we've got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcast at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Ganjing World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Lamb, sitting in for David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.